Sana Farouk. I am the director, and I'm just going to be giving you a little bit of an intro first on what we mean by AI. So, as you all know, there's just been a huge boom in content and news and the use of AI. And the most popular one happens to be ChatGPT, which is why we chose it for the title. But under the scope of today's session, we really are looking at any kind of assistive AI that can be used in education. If we zoom out a little bit, so in most recent news that we've come across, there was a feature recently in Financial Times, and they have said that there will be at least 300 million jobs impacted across the major economies of the world. And that does sound a bit scary, but when you actually open the article and you read it, the main crux is that they are actually predicting a productivity boom, which will raise annual GDP globally by 7% over the next 10 years. And all of this is going to happen because of the different types of AI and how it's being used in the world right now. Just to give you an example and a disclaimer that we do not have any affiliation and we have not been sponsored by any particular AI softwares, and any names that will be used today by myself or the team are just based on the merits of that particular app or software. The artificial intelligence, which is what AI stands for, we used to see artificial intelligence come up in like movies, even as far as like 10 years or more ago. iRobot being one, but there's so many more like Eagle Eye and Ex Machina and things like that. And it's been a topic of interest for Hollywood for a long time. But now we're in an age where it's actually come to use at our fingertips. And there's actually artificial intelligence apps other than ChatGPT, which are being used for medical diagnosis. So a doctor can put in the critical medical history and symptoms of a patient, and it can, suggest a diagnosis in particularly technical or very complicated cases where there's a lot of data. You have AI apps summarizing really lengthy documents, so you can input maybe a 200-page document and just ask it questions on what does it say about this, what does it say about this, which is great for reading really long contracts or reading the small print, actually. Then there's apps which can make pictures or art. And I actually came across the first AI chat. And what it does is it has a database where it has already been inputted with various classical art and even modern art. And you can actually just ask it, for example, to maybe do the Mona Lisa in, I don't know, a 70s hippie style. And it will do that for you. Or you can suggest maybe an architectural structure and ask it to kind of do something else to it. And it can just basically create art or, edit or improvise existing art. There's AI making videos, there's AI making websites, and people are using it even to improve the user interface and user experience on existing websites. AI is even being used to code. So you can now ask artificial intelligence to code you a particularly problematic snippet of code for a particular app or website, or indeed AI is coding entire little bits of software that independently work. Things like, George showed us, like Chrome browser extensions and widgets like that. A very interesting use of AI is being integrated with different, online softwares for meeting assistants and things like that. So they will listen in on your call, they will summarize the points and allocate even action points and remind you if those tasks are due and so on. And as we move on closer to the use in education, obviously, there's been a huge amount of content being published for and against the use of ChatGPT and other assistive software, which goes beyond just grammar and spell checks and will actually write your assignments, even thesis. And then there's AI apps that are being used to then paraphrase those assignments so that they're not even detectable by AI detectors. So yeah, so and this whole thing is spiraling quite fast. And internally, we realized in ELN that we had quite a few different perspectives around the use of assistive AI in education. Just to give you an example of what's happening externally in the world. So recently, a couple of exam boards, including Cambridge University, have come out with AI policies, and they're mostly along the lines of trying to find ways for students to avoid the use of AI, with mostly plagiarism concerns. And Cambridge University has allowed students